It looks like Fed Chief Ben Bernanke may be confirmed. It is not a slam dunk. Senate Assistant Majority Leader Richard Durbin will meet with Bernanke later this afternoon to discuss Fed policy. Will Bernanke be forced to change it? Well, let's bring in Bob McTeer, former Dallas Fed president and a CNBC contributor, Dan Mitchell, senior fellow at the Cato Institute, and CNBC's Steve Leisman. Steve Leisman, I want to begin with you because of this very disturbing news story about Bernanke's meeting with Senator Harry Reid, the majority leader, where it seems like Reid extracted a very easy money promise from Bernanke. Do you know about this meeting? What can you say about this meeting? Because in some sense, this undermines the entire Fed credibility argument.
You know, I think you can read the statement out of that any way you like, Larry. I don't read it quite that way. Bernanke saying he's going to do his best for the economy and for jobs and for housing. I think that's what he was always saying he would do. The idea that there's some concession here, I don't think is evident in that particular statement.
In Reid's statement,
Steve, didn't he say redouble his effort? Wasn't that the quote?
Yeah, to do what, Melissa?
To ensure that families can access the credit they need to buy or keep their home.
Yeah.
Foreclosures and unemployment are endemic in Nevada.
Right.
The American people are frustrated, and rightly so.
Right.
There's a three-paragraph quote in
Redouble
the
his efforts
Las Vegas Sun. I'm asking you, what promises made? What did Bernanke say, and when did he say it? We need to know that.
Redouble his efforts so that families can access credit. That's part of what monetary policy is about, that credit is out there and it's affordable. One of the things the Federal Reserve has done since day one is do its best to keep the credit markets from collapsing so that nobody could have access to credit. The idea that he said that doesn't speak to me of any change in policy, although I think there is.
Maybe that's the problem.
I think, Melissa, there are grounds to have a discussion about how this does change policy. My guess is there are 17 guys and the FOMC going to sit around that table tomorrow and feel like they were driving their car in the local neighborhood and almost hit a dog.
Bob, what's your take? What's your take on that statement? How do you interpret it?
Well, I agree with Steve that what Bernanke apparently promised was what he was already trying to deliver. I think Senator Reid did him a disservice and did the Fed a disservice by releasing such a statement, though.
Dan Mitchell, redouble his efforts. That's Senator Reid's take, Dan. Redouble. Does that mean we're going to redouble easy money? Does that mean the Fed is going to be even easier, buying up more mortgages, buying up more bonds, keeping the target rate at zero for the rest of our lifetime?
Tighten.
I mean, it certainly doesn't show independence. It certainly doesn't suggest that when the time comes for a clear exit strategy, that Mr. Bernanke has the political backing to do that, Dan. What's your thinking here?
Well, that's the big concern. Bernanke's been an easy money guy. I feel like this should be retitled The 70s Show because Bernanke's making the mistakes that the Fed made back then. Easy money, artificially hold interest rates down, but that's like going into a bar and downing 10 shots. It feels good for a little while, but the hangover comes when it spills out into the general economy and you get rising prices. And I don't have any faith that Bernanke's going to withdraw all this excess liquidity. He's clearly shown that he's very pliable to the politicians.
Bob, that's the issue. I mean, that's really the problem here is that I think the market and a lot of people don't have the faith that he's going to take the punch bowl away when the time comes, as, you know, the phrase that's being used over and over again. How much faith do you have in that?
I have a great deal of faith, and don't forget, you really don't have to withdraw all the liquidity that was created. Most of it is sitting on bank balance sheets as excess reserves. What you have to do is slow down the provision of new liquidity. You don't have to undo everything that's been done.
Why not? Can I ask you why not? Bob, I don't mean to interrupt, but look, I just want to follow up. This is such a key point because, you know, we've had experts like Peter Navarro of UCal Irvine who's saying it's the stock, it's the total balance sheet that matters. The flows in between Federal Reserve balances or bank balances do not matter because that money has been printed, it is out there, and it could result in an explosion of inflationary credit at some point. Why do you think the flows are so important?
Well, I think the answer is the exact opposite of what you just quoted. The flows are what create new money, and the stock, as long as it sits there on the balance sheet voluntarily by the banks is not doing harm.
Whose balance sheet? The banks can use that money anytime
But they're
they want.
not. But they're not.
But that's the point.
But Larry,
you never know when this turning point can come. That's the problem with this scenario.
You guys have no idea. You have no idea. What was Jimmy ranting about back in the summer that year? He was ranting about Bernanke being too tight on policy.
Who's Jimmy?
The idea, Jim Cramer, the idea that who's Jimmy? The idea that he was too loose was not apparent back then. and even for you might even say during the whole first year of the crisis.
How about
I don't know.
During the whole first year, during 2002, the Fed was reacting to a deflationary threat.
I would say also on Larry's show last summer, I did say isn't easy money how we got in this problem in the first place. I think people have been worried about that since the beginning.
Dan Mitchell, memories are so short here.
Point at all,
Steve Leisman is suffering from this temporary bout of Monday morning amnesia, Dan Mitchell. If you break the window and then you go ahead and fix it, Dan, that doesn't make you a great hero. As John Taylor has proven time and again, between 2002 and 2005, the Fed was massively over easy. Dan, so why do we give him all this credit?
Yeah, I grade the Fed on a curve because it is difficult. We don't even know how to define the supply of money, much less predict the demand for money. But here's what concerns me about Bernanke. At any point during the excess money creation era in the middle part of this decade, did Bernanke say, no, this is too much, we shouldn't be keeping interest rates this low? Bernanke, I fear it's going to be like the 1970s, step on the gas, step on the brakes, and we're just going to be cycling
Do we know
between
he didn't say that,
recession and inflation.
I mean, it seems like it because he was. Do we know that he never said this is too much? I mean, we know he was there the whole time.
Do we? No,
he was on the board, Melissa.
Yeah. I know.
Melissa,
Steve?
he was on the board during an extended period of time when the Fed was raising rates and raised them to 5.25%. We kind of forget that part of the story.
No, that's an important part of the story.
For that part.
I give you credit for that. But I'm saying is if you break the window and then you fix it, it's the pillar to post problem that we're having. Steve Leisman, let me just ask you this.
I agree with you on that.
What's your vote points? What's your vote count, Steve? Looks to me like you got 35 nay votes.
32.
Maybe
nay
more.
Votes? No.
Nay votes. 35 nay votes when this thing is all said and done.
Oh, you mean if you gross it up from there? Yeah, we'll be 30,
I'm just extrapolating.
So. About 30, 32 nay votes.
Here's the second problem I have. He will not have true bipartisan support. We've never had a situation when at least a third of the Senate opposes the Fed chairman. That to me is, besides the Harry Reid meeting, which I think is more important, I guess, than you do, I also think this vote is more important. He's making promises on Capitol Hill to keep money too loose for too long to get his vote count. We've never seen anything this goofy before in a Fed nominee.
Let me just say that, first of all, policy is determined by a committee, and I don't know if the evidence is overwhelming to the committee that it's time to change policy and tighten. I don't think whatever promises Bernanke made now will matter. And I wonder, Larry, if the exact opposite might be the outcome. If the result of this may be that Bernanke turns to Geithner and says, I got $250 billion political mortgage-backed securities on my books, you take them.
Yeah, you take them. Bob McTeer, there's dissension on that committee, Robert. You know that. There's dissension on that committee right now inside the FOMC and the Fed.
Well, I'd like to say that I was on that committee during this period of so-called too easy money. And during the period of 2000, I left in November of 2004. During 2002 and 2003, we were in danger of slipping into a double dip. We had disinflation that the chairman was worried about morphing into deflation. The conditions called for easy money. And easy money may cause too many people to borrow money to buy a house, but they don't cause people to create subprime mortgages that they ought to go to jail for.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there. Thanks to all of you for joining us.